Democratic Congressman Adriano Espaillat of New York. He knows a thing or 20 about this issue because you, sir, were an undocumented kid when you came into the U.S. from the Dominican Republic as a child. You are the first undocumented person in the U.S. to later be elected to Congress. Good to see you.
Same here.
Good to see you. And Happy New Year. And I hope the rest is good, too, because it's. I know you're going to have a strong sentiment about what we're seeing in the streets of New York, of New Jersey, in other states around the country right now.
Absolutely, Bill. And let me just start by saying there has been misinformation, a misinformation campaign about what a sanctuary city really is. It's not a city that harbors violent criminals or protects them or cuddles them. There are over 100 laws in the books right now in the penal code that would allow for somebody that commits any of those crimes, mainly violent crimes, to be arrested, convicted, and deported. But what a sanctuary city does, it allows a mom to take her kid to school without the fear that the principal is going to call ICE on her, or a senior to go into an emergency room and not fear that the nurse is going to turn them in.
It's not giving sanctuary to criminals.
No, absolutely
not. Giving
not.
Sanctuary.
It's a safety net. It's a safety net for the most vulnerable. It's for a woman to be able to go into a precinct if she's a victim of domestic violence and not be, cuffed, arrested, and deported if she has no papers.
So over this past week, we have done many stories about people who are fearful of this, and now we see why, because people have been hauled around and brought up by ICE agents, which are federal agents, and they have taken them away. The other night in Newark, you saw this. All of a sudden, people were being handcuffed and moved out of a building because why? Because they didn't have any information on them to say, I'm a citizen. There were citizens of the United States that were there that were busted. There was a veteran of the United States.
That's correct.
Who was busted. You came as a kid, an undocumented worker. Your parents were undocumented workers, and you came to get into this life. You did pretty well for yourself. First congressman to be elected who was once an undocumented worker. What is your feeling when you see all this?
Horrible, right across the river. It could be New York City as well.
It is.
So what's the criteria, right, that's being used to determine who gets stopped? Is it a profiling? You may not look American. America is very diverse now. They're from all walks of life, from all continents of the world. So is it that? And then, of course, we see how citizens are getting stopped. I always said that a massive deportation plan would be messy, if not inhumane. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see even nastier things happen than just getting a citizen stopped and arrested or a veteran, someone that served our country.
The fear among many people watching this was, hey, this is not just about people who have done crimes. And in fact, these people were not doing any crimes.
It sends out a chilling effect that impacts not just the undocumented who are very afraid, but even, as you said, citizens and people that may have their green cards that are here legally will be very afraid that they're going to get stopped, cuffed, arrested, and deported. And so this is troubling that there's no infrastructure to conduct this massive deportation scheme, right? So this is going to be really messy and inhumane.
What's your reaction to what a federal judge in Seattle did this last week and say, hey, we're putting a temporary restraining order on Donald Trump's position on this, and we're going to stop this while we decide all this?
Well, I think that's good. I think we got to think through this. This is not off the cuff. This should not be something that just is a rapid response. We got to really think through this. There's a lot of things on the table, including potentially doing away with birthright citizenship that should be thought through. And I think that that's the right decision of a judge to do that. I think many judges, there are 20 states that now have challenged some of the executive orders, and I think many of the judges will act in the same direction.
I got a million things to ask you. We got 2.5 minutes left because it goes quickly with you. Quickly, your reaction to Donald Trump, pardoning members of the January 6th insurrection. What is your reaction to that, especially vis-a-vis what's happening right here?
Horrible. I speak to Sergeant Gunnell, who is a New Yorker or a Brooklynite, often, he's in D.C. He was one of the police officers, the Capitol police officers that were beat up by felons, people that were convicted, very violent people. Some of them were predicate felons. And now they're released. They're released into our communities. I predict that they're going to commit additional crimes as we move forward. So we'll be watchful of that. But it's horrible that law enforcement, that our police officers, the Capitol Police and the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police officers, that not only stood up for democracy and safeguarded democracy, but that protected our lives. Both Democrats and Republicans now have to see that, in fact, these folks are being released to the communities across America. Horrible president.
Let me talk to you a little bit about what's happening locally. We'll talk about Mayor Adams. He went to the inauguration of President Trump. You did not go. You were here in your house.
I was in the city, yes.
Okay. It was also Martin Luther King Day, so a lot of people did not go there. When the mayor came back and was asked about what's happening here with these new moves by the president, he said, and he defended New Yorkers. New Yorkers are not going to put up with this. We're not going to help do this. We shouldn't be helping do this, and we don't want to, because these people are part of our fabric, unless they've done a crime. How did you feel about that? Because a lot of people gave him a lot of poop for going to that inauguration.
Well, first, I stayed here. I started the day with Catholic Charities and, of course, a group of immigrants, giving them a card, a pocket card that's Know Your Rights, so that they're in power and they can go out on the street and know exactly the do's and don'ts of this, this whole issue. That's important that they know that. And then, of course, it was Martin Luther King Day, so I was in Harlem for most of the day.
Your reaction to the mayor?
Well, I didn't go. He did. He made his choice. I'm glad that he's not. He said that the New York City Police Department, the finest, are going to be out there chasing bad guys in New York City and not necessarily being federal agents enforcing immigration law or trying to do massive deportation. I think we got lots to do here for public safety. The federal government should do what they need to do.
This is not going away. We'd like to have you come again and give your insight on that.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll come back anytime.
Congressman Adriano Espaillat.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year.